When I started writing this script, I was ready to tear Intel a new hole and question their sanity as to what they're doing. But as I kept writing and thinking and researching, I started to realize that Intel might be making one of the best possible decisions they could, even better than I was even hoping. Let's start this off with how I was originally thinking. I was looking into how the X299 platform was going to start with fewer cores than the X99 platform had, and on a new socket. So not only are they regressing instead of progressing, but they're going to force people who want to upgrade to buy a new chipset and motherboard, which is, I mean, pretty status quo for Intel, so I kind of went into it expecting that. Now let's start with what we know about the i7-7740K and the i5-7640K. This is quite old news, but the i7 is 4-core 8 threads, like the 7700K, with 4.3 to 4.5 gigahertz. This is very similar to the 7700K, and it seems the only real difference is the removal of the integrated GPU and the move to the enthusiast platform. The i5, on the other hand, is looking to be the very first desktop i5 to have either hyper-threading or be featured on the enthusiast platform, which doesn't seem to make a lot of sense because the i5 is not typically known as an enthusiast chip. A couple questions that we have to ask ourselves is, first, if AMD's increasing the core count and increasing the competition in the core count, why would Intel be reducing the core count, especially in the enthusiast line? The second question is, why is Intel skipping X199? They went from X99 to X299. Doesn't make a lot of sense. I may have stumbled across the largest Intel lineup refactor since the i-series began. All this time we've been saying that the stronger AMD comes back, the more Intel is going to have to change to accommodate them. Well, this change is happening a lot faster than I expected. You might be wondering why I even brought up the skipping of the X199 chipset, why they skipped that name, but it's actually very significant. They intentionally skipped it. The X299 platform isn't just meant to succeed the X99 platform. It's very much meant to succeed the Z270 platform as well. The fact that it has the 299 name really sets it higher in naming than the 270, and that's not by accident. I believe that the Z270 is going to be the last high-end mainstream chipset. Currently in Intel's lineup, there are two sockets which represent different areas of their product spectrum. There's everything from the very low end right up to the high end is covered by one socket, and then beyond that there's another socket for the extreme high end and the servers. As it stands, even most enthusiast gamers will still buy the mainstream socket, mainly because there's no reason to go with the high-end socket. As a result, the low-end socket, or the mainstream socket, far outsells the high-end by an extreme margin. It's also worth noting that very few people have an upgrade path beyond the 7700K that doesn't involve a really expensive motherboard and CPU paywall. Intel could be removing the Z270 successors from the product roadmap entirely, making overclocking an exclusively enthusiast feature. The successors to the B250 and H270 chipsets would be relegated to the low end with no support for overclocking, few cores, and a bad case of inferiority complex next to the blazing, shiny X299 and its successors, which is likely to be actually cheaper and more accessible than the current X99 platform, but don't say that out loud. With this new product lineup, everybody buying Intel, if you're an enthusiast, even if you're the kind of person currently sitting on an i5K series, you're going to be getting this new prestigious and blazing fast X99 platform, which offers, most importantly to Intel, the best upgrade path. These enthusiasts, instead of buying at the top of the mainstream, they're going to be buying at the low end of the enthusiast. Why is this happening now? It's quite simple. AMD is taking advantage of the shortcomings of Ryzen and placing itself in the best possible. AMD will continue to offer lower prices and more cores, meaning better multi-core performance for the price. While AMD will be selling to many professionals and enthusiasts, and mainly winning over the mainstream and the low end as usual, Intel wants to remain in command of the high-end enthusiast professional, touting the advantages of their higher IPC, higher clock speeds with better overclocking, with these bonus features like quad-channel memory and better expansion with more PCI lanes, whether you need all these things or not. Intel is preparing the X299 platform to be the benchmark for all high-end desktop. They want people to start expecting these extra features that are exclusive to that. The things that AM4 doesn't provide. Now, am I saying you should wait for and go buy X299 when it comes out? Am I saying Intel is going to win after all and AMD is just going to be left in the dust as usual? Not exactly. Honestly, I hope that's not the case. I do want the really strong competition between AMD and Intel. In fact, we need that competition. Honestly, I suspect that most people are still going to be perfectly fine going with either Ryzen 5 or Ryzen 7 on the AM4 platform, or even going with the lower end Intel. While I think there's going to be a big stigma of inferiority behind those chipsets, I think they're still going to be very viable.